So this is back in the 1980s and early 1980s. Um, so I worked as the sign language interpreting coordinator for my campus. That was my part-time job.
Okay.
And so, and I would need to get interpreters, and if you're getting an interpreter for more than an hour, you often need two of them at the same time because they don't like to have one person signing more than an hour because of carpal tunnel.
Oh, interesting. I did not
So
know.
yeah, so one of the things that often happens with professional interpreters who want to do it the right way is that if you get more than an hour, they they want you to hire two interpreters so they can switch off like every 20 minutes or something like that. And and so sometimes also if you're getting a big star to come to an event and it's only 50 minutes, but they still might want a second interpreter just to provide backup, just in case the star signs something that, whoops, okay, the star is coming from Washington, D.C., the interpreter's in California, and maybe there might be an idiomatic sign that they don't know. So you can just have the backup interpreter there right next to the real interpreter. So there's often that cost too. And
I
um,
did not know. That's an ad.
yeah,
Wow. No, I did not know.
so that's part of the dynamic. When I was working at my campus, the office of I, I don't know, there's an office
Mm-hmm.
of disabled resources and services or something. That office didn't want to pay for the interpreters because they were so expensive, and it tried to make all the separate departments around the university pay for it. And then, so yeah, so I know what you mean by cost. I mean, and it's only gone up since 1992 or 91. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
so the cost is interesting. I um, so how would you? I I think in some ways the technological challenge is one thing, and you're focusing on the design and the pragmatic um, aspects of
Yeah.
this project.
But
But how would you
selling.
just sell it to a population that says no? We want an actual person for the best possible communication.
Well, I think. I mean, this first of all needs to. Step one has a lot to develop,
Mm-hmm.
and right now it's only constructed based on one specific, really small group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for the group of people that do not want technology and don't think that it would help them, I think it's completely fair to them to. I don't want to push this on them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they can. It's their choice if they want to. If they prefer having like an actual person.
Okay.
I mean, they should have the right to have an actual person. And I
Okay.
think this concept is even, I guess for myself, was like how to think about constructing for people that need some like
Mm-hmm.
something more, and to just kind of like get the word out there to across all age groups.
Mm-hmm.
In the United States, approximately 1,000 people identified themselves as deaf or hard of hearing.
Okay.
Um, what should we do to make a? What do you think we should do to make a real contribution and help the community?
Um, Employment. So you said across all age groups there are 1,000.
Yes. So currently there's 1,000 people identifying as deaf or hard of hearing.
Okay.
So what contributions do you think would be beneficial to help?
I guess employment or more broadly just integration into society because it's an extremely segregated community and um, you, you just don't see them interacting with the rest of the population. It's very, very rare that there's crossover. And so um, I guess just they've always thought of some type of integration, like how do we get these people into the rest of society, and somehow sometimes that hasn't been good. Sometimes the um, is it the Milan conference? Um, was there a Milan conference with Alexander Graham Bell? Uh, so this is history. This is separate from that question. So
Yeah, I love history. So,
okay, um, but my own perception of the deaf community is that's very segregated and it's separated, and that cuts off people from opportunities and employment. Um, and there are many things that people get cut off from. Whether or not we get to see the movie Black Panther at the same time as everybody else, you have to wait for it to come out on DVD with the captions, and instead of in the theater where they don't have captions. So there are many things that result in
separate.
segregation. But I think the most crucial part of fixing that segregation is just to have employment, because these people don't have job opportunities, and if you look at um, I don't know, if you go to a job fair or something like that, it's almost about deaf people trying to serve other deaf people, and that's a really limited pool of opportunity to make money. And so, I mean, just those two words somehow are linked together, like integration and also especially employment. So, yeah.
that's why I wanted to.
Um, okay, so I know that I knew people who did have challenges in a professional setting because I told you about how I had to find interpreters for these people.
Hmm.
And sometimes I couldn't find interpreters, and sometimes I would be desperately working the phones or we didn't really have much email back in the 1990s, so it was chiefly pick up the phone and call and hope somebody would answer. Um, so there would be issues of finding that interpreter, and um, and then there were all these other questions of like who's going to pay for the interpreter, and even if it was just like a departmental party, uh, you want the interpreter there so that the departmental member can actually be part of the department, right? But then, well, do we really need to pay for an interpreter for a party? And yet, that type of networking is important for somebody to be part of a professional setting. Um, just in terms of whether I had professional problems, it's somebody did come up to me once and asked me if I thought the fact that my peers would get jobs and I took a longer time to find employment. Somebody came up, a colleague at another institution came up to me and wondered if prospective hiring committees were looking at that and saying, well, we don't want that. So it has crossed my mind. I can't prove it, but yeah. So
Um, where do you think people find most support?
where do people find
Most support,
for
um, overcoming these challenges.
probably it's going to be the family. So I don't think it's going to come from outside very much. I think it's chiefly the family that's going to have to step in and uh, provide the most support. And given that I said that most people do have employment issues, um, it ends up being the family that's going to be the one that has to provide the most support. So,
That's a lot of work.
yes.
um, do you think there's a need to have more education on this topic in like educational facilities like schools, like from earlier on?
Um,
Like for example, teaching kids, having programs implemented programs where you teach young kids how to like communicate in sign language.
So, so just because there's been so much segregation, I'm not sure that most people ever actually get the chance to use that sign language that they learn as kids, and so I don't know what to do in terms of education because I feel that right now it's just like I'm trying to think. Um, okay, I guess when I went to college, there was a group of students with disabilities that got together and tried to agitate for better access to buildings. Like, this building's library is not fully accessible, or this library is accessible on the ground floor, but not all the other ones. And so I guess I'm not sure if it's so much education that needs to be done, but maybe what needs to be done is actually take tangible steps to provide the access.
Okay.
And I feel like that might be education for
Adults.
I'm sorry?
Adults.
Yes, adults. Yeah, I think it might be more for adults than for kids because on the one hand, you could look at providing the education for the children so that when they eventually grow up and they're like, oh, this is going to be a part of society right here, we have to find a way to do that. And so I'm wondering if just in terms of, with children, it might be designed so that when they grow up, they're thinking these people are going to be part of society. We have to figure out how to have them in society instead of being segregated away in unemployment or in their homes or whatever. Yeah, that's not a very helpful answer.
No,
Okay.
it was perfect.
Okay,
Well, those were my questions.
those are your questions. Okay,
Yes.
very
So,
good.
at this point, you did ask me questions at the beginning, but do you have any further questions for me?
Nope. I just was curious as to what problem you were seeking to solve, and what got you thinking about this, and also I just was curious about what research you had done on this, and it sounded like you had already encountered the issue of